So, welcome everybody to our Wednesday segueing into Thursday Facebook. And I've been kind of noticing in the mornings now it's getting a little bit chilly. And it took me back to, too many years ago to even mention when I was in Girl Guides and we made sit-upons. So I thought, they worked really, really well when we made them out of newspaper, when newspapers were huge sheets of paper that you could fold up. And I thought, I wonder if I could do that out of fabric. So I thought I would give it a try, because this time of year, you never know when you're attending those outdoor events or you just want to sit outside on the patio furniture. How cold is it going to be? How clean is it going to be? Maybe you're still wearing your white summer pants and not so sure about those bleachers in the ball diamond when you go to watch your grandson play. So I am going to redo something from the old days. I'm going to give you a little bit of a view of what it looks like made from fabric. And yeah, it's just woven strips. So let me walk you through the process. First of all, you're going to decide how big do you want your sit-upon. And I kind of went with about an 18-inch square, which means I have 9 by 9 strips because I wanted to make my strips 2 inches wide. Now, that's flexible. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, whatever you would like. So the first thing you want to do is prepare your fabric strips. And obviously, I'm going to need, if I'm 9 by 9, I'm going to need 18 strips. And I made them about that big. Now, that doesn't help you at all, does it? So what you want to do is take the width, the finished width of your strip times 2 plus your seam allowance. So I started for my 2-inch wide strips with a 4.5-inch wide piece of fabric, and I sewed it together, right sides together, and I've turned it and pressed it with the seam along one edge. So then you say, well, how long a strip do I need? And I found when I was doing this, because the weaving is going to take up some of the length of the strip, I could do the hard quilt math and figure out how long to start with. But I just went with bigger is better because I can always cut off the excess. So I started with about a 30-inch strip. Now that I've actually got it done and start doing measuring, about 25 inches worked for me, but it's always better to have that little bit of extra to kind of finagle with as you work. So you prepare your strips and you start really quite easily. Let's see, let's start at this end. That'll show you up better here. Turn that on. So the first thing you're going to do is lay out 9 strips across. I've got some of mine tucked in just to save a little bit of time. And I'm working on one of our wool ironing mats. You could work on cardboard if you want, but the ironing mat is great because you can press as you go. You can pin. It's got just enough thickness. So you're going to take all of your strips and pin them down. If I had this strip folded out, I'd be pinning all the way along, all the way across the top. Lay those out nicely, and then just like you used to do back in school, start in the center and do an over-under weave all the way out. You can see I still have some tails left to work in. And that's the key with this little guy, is weaving in the tails. So that's what I'm going to focus on. I think we all pretty much know how to do the weaving. And this is a great project if you want to work with kids because they love to do the weaving. So start with one strip, right pretty much in the center. Hold it down with a pin. You can pin through the fabric, but I found just holding it down that way keeps the whole thing from shifting. Get all your strips woven all the way along. Keep them snugged up fairly tight to each other like that. And you may have to do a little shifting and moving and to get it so that you don't have too big a gap here in that center point. So once you get that done, how do you get all those tails fastened in? It is really quite simple. And I'm going to undo this one, start in the center to show you how easy that is. So we're pulling this guy out. So I would start always in the center strip. And what you're going to be working with, let's get that under the camera here. So you want an extra piece of strip that is twice that distance, less a little bit. So what I did was folded it over, folded it back, and trimmed it off just across there. So now we can take that. This is a strip that's got a piece over it, so I can fold it over and I can tuck it under like that. Now, if I was working with newspaper in the old days, that would hold nicely, but I want to put a pin there just to hold it still like that. And I'm going to refold this one, show you the same way. We're just going to work our way across this way, doing all of the strips that would go over the first strip. Stuff it in. Move it around so it stays nice and flat. There we go. You can press as you go, but I think it's nice to keep them a little bit fluffy because it just adds to the warmth. Next strip, going over. And we're tucking in underneath, just like that. And so you go all the way around your sit-upon, doing the alternate strips that go over like that. Putting pins in where you need to and getting it all set. Once you've done that, you can take the whole thing, should be fairly stable. I like to pin my strips at the corner. All right, there we are, tucked under. And flip it over. Then I'm going to go along and do exactly the same thing with these strips. So right here, fold that, tuck it under. I'm just going to pat it down for now. On occasion, you get this sort of thing happening where you've got that tail is sticking out. That's what we tucked under from the other side. So just pull your pin, snuggle it over, line it all up. There's a pin right there, and repin it so it's nice and straight. This one here, once I established how long I needed these strips, I went around and trimmed them all off to the required size. So this edge is almost done. There we go. One more down this end. Okay, and we're going to do top edge exactly the same way. So all the way around. This is why I say it's a good project for little guys. They can help you with the tucking and the folding and the patting. So we are this one. And I love to see how it comes together as we get our strips all folded in. It gives, because we're folding under so much fabric, as I say, almost double the width of the strip, it kind of gives that edge a little bit of extra padding. Now, if you wanted, when you're preparing your strips, you could use strips of quilt batting to pad them out. So you would just layer a width of batting. If you're cutting a 4.5-inch strip of fabric because you're doing the 1/4-inch seam, I would use a 4-inch strip of batting inside, lay it down, sew your strip and turn it as you usually do. And then your sit-upon's going to have a little more warmth to it, a little more body. And because at the end of the process, you're going to be stitching this down, it still is, throw it in the washing machine, throw it in the dryer. There we go. So we are working our way all the way around except for the corners. Now this one, I have yet to trim. See how that is fairly long? So this is how I measure. Fold, fold, and then just trim off that excess right there. That gives me just enough to tuck that under almost all the way down. As I say, every time we make a fold in fabric, that is taking up space. Pop a little pin in there. This guy, fold, fold, and trim. Now I've made my sit-upon out of scraps because, hey, who doesn't have scraps? But there's no reason why you can't pick up a couple of, I like contrasting fabric for this that really shows off the weave. Okay, so now we've got all of our sides done. We're down to our corners. I've got this guy yet to do. I see I missed a couple. At this point, it's quite easy to flip the thing back and forth as you work your way around. It's pretty stable. Tuck this guy. These corners can be a little awkward. There's my pin. That's what I want out of there. There we go. This one's been cut to size. Tuck it in just as neat as we can. There we are. I'll temporarily pin that one. And there was one other one that got missed. I think it was down here. Move that up for you. This guy. Missed him. So once you get all of the sides done, the corners are really kind of fun. You could do them the same way, but just to get them to lock in, I'll show you on this one corner in particular. So I'm going to take this strip and I'm going to fold it, but I'm not going to tuck it under. I'm actually going to tuck it underneath the next strip. And sometimes it helps to have a little something to push it in so that you don't have to take out the next one completely. Put your pin back in. That's going to hold everything together. And then obviously on this side, same thing. Pull that pin and tuck that right through all the way. Just like that. Nice and neat, nice and flat, and it wouldn't come out by itself terribly easily. Holds very securely. So same thing here. Take the pin out. Fold this. Now this looks like a strip that I have not yet trimmed. So let's see what happens. This is quite easy. Quite easy. Tuck it through. Pull it through. There we go. And let's just cut off what we don't need. I'm going to pull it about 1/4 inch too far so that after I trim it off and pull it flat, it tucks back in. There we go. That's that guy. Flip it over and we can do this one. Pull that. Oh, this is unfolded. Well, we can fix that. So you can always unfold them, lay that flat, lay this one down and tuck it in. There we are. Put your pin in. 2 more corners to go. Let's see. There we go. Ah, this one will be great. Take that one out. This one goes over here. You can imagine that if you're working with kids, how long a process this could be. This could amuse them for hours. So, there we go. And pop that pin in. Now here's another long one. So if I take pin out underneath, and this time, just gonna tug that. There we go. Pull that through, all the way through. That just really locks that into place. Pull it just a hair too far. Snip it off. There we go. 1 more corner to go. So when I have finished doing all this tucking and pinning and folding and everything, I can just take this to the sewing machine and I can run a stitch line just around the edge. And I think what I would do is, you don't have to sew every strip all the way through, although you certainly could if you're concerned about it coming apart. But I think the way I would treat it is to seam here and here. And that's going to hold all of your strips in place. You're not going to worry about anything pulling out. And it would be a whole lot faster than doing the whole thing. So there we go. That is all folded, tucked, ready to go under the sewing machine, nice and flat. I might give that a little press with the iron and just watch the pins on that one and sew it down. And maybe we will have some results for you later on. So I encourage you to watch our Facebook Live and watch our YouTube channel for updates on any of the projects that we managed to get started and maybe we don't quite get finished, but all done, all folded, all ready to go. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time in another Facebook Live. Take care, everyone.